Hey guys, it's Matt. About a minute and a half before I read chapter 16, I just want to tell you about what happened last night. Sure, the Philadelphia area, I live in the suburbs, had strong storms. But what they did, the news, how they made it out as if Thanos and an alien army broke through some sort of portal and was pouring off the New Jersey beaches. And my phone starts beep, 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 beep. Okay, we've all been through this. And it was a strong storm. There are some trees down. But I looked at the PECO, which is Philadelphia Electric power outage. 99% of the area is still up. I mean, this is nothing compared to some of the hurricanes that Florida has gotten, some of the other weather events, or even a real F4 tornado through the plains. This is nothing. Okay, there was some straight line winds, and there's some power outages. If you take one power outage out, then there's literally in the whole area of millions, 10,000 people. If you remove one outage area, 10,000, it's nothing. But of course, the news is breaking into television. They're telling you, head to the basement, head, and now nothing happened here. Okay, I know there were some straight line winds, which I've seen before, and they've bent over trees. You can get the 70 miles an hour, but 20 little pockets, and they literally have an entire region of millions. My mother called me, go to the basement. No, it's unbelievable. Now, the weather people aren't in on it. Somehow, everything evolves in the direction the Not Nilk wants. It's fascinating. Let me start chapter 16. When you embrace the simple truths of existence, it eventually makes everything in life that you got stressed out about in the past no big deal. When the big picture is finally realized, life's worries become inconsequential. This is why the Not Nilk always wants you in the weeds, never backing up to see the whole. Seeing the big picture is not at odds with fully living in the present moment. The Not Nilk usually wins on both fronts. It has people regretting the past and worried about the future, and, at the same time, it has people in the minute details of the weeds in front of them, which brings stress and worry. What a formidable adversary it has been. What anxiety is on your mind right now? Are you stressed because you have a late unpaid water bill and you only have one flush left in the house? And your house will soon smell like a cruise ship adrift off the coast of Greece after an outbreak of neurovirus? After you understand that the endless details of this place are there to hide the ultimate simple truth, nothing petty should ever bother you again. This life is a tiny train stop. There is no death other than the end of this experience. When you understand a few basic things about yourself, nothing should stress you out again. We should fear nothing. We should never get angry. We should never scream, "Fuck you!" at the kid with the tricked out Honda Accord with the muffler cut with holes in order to be extra loud. These assholes run up and down my road all day long, pissing me off. But part of the work here is overcoming these nuisances and irritations. I don't have to like the rooster, but it has to be placed in the proper perspective. The world has devolved over time to become even more artificial. The amount of things we have to do during the day seem normal to us, but the sheer number of tasks in this reality is absurd. Back in the 90s, Jerry Seinfeld delivered an unexpected truth drop, saying if the body was a car, he would take it back to the dealer. Think of all the things you need to do for your body in the morning before you go off to work, like shaving, eating, etc. He said, if my car needed an oil change and to be polished every time I wanted to drive it, I'd take it back. Now, this is a feature of reality itself, but the Not Nilk piles onto this general reality trend of busyness with endless and pointless administration, like driver's license renewals and new real ID standards. So hundreds of millions of people, at least the United States, will be inconvenienced if they ever want to fly again. And then they keep pushing it back, confusing it. Oh, that should have gone in 2 years ago. Oh, backup cameras? That needed to be installed in every car 4 years ago. And they pushed it back. It's endless. In a real world where good ideas and solutions are allowed to rise to the top, 95% of the burdens of society could have been eliminated for all of us about 20 years ago. Because the administration nuisance only gets worse over time, it gives away the artificial nature of reality, at least from the outer rings perspective. I think the busyness of tasks is part of this reality at the game board level. We're here to experience these little tasks we probably didn't get before we came in here. What I'm saying is somehow the Not Nilk has found a way to compound this attribute of reality. It's a master of incremental distraction, and it delights at stealing 1 second at a time that nobody notices. Going away from the book for just 30 seconds, if anybody's new to the channel in general, this can get awfully confusing. Saying, well, implementing a new standard for Real ID, what is he talking about? That comes from people. No, in a way it does not. Sure, somebody writes it up. Sure, a bill goes through Congress. But people that serve what I call the screen reality or the not milk, they serve it without even understanding it exists. They get on its download. They get on its frequency. The not milk or the dark force here moves society where it wants to move it, with people doing exactly what it wants, with people that are doing it, not even understanding how they're serving it. Yes, it can get complicated. If you get confused, just think of it as Satan. I don't call it that, but what it does is similar. Most of us find ourselves right in the middle of not milk society. When we were Matrix children of the past, we actually strived to put ourselves deeper into this society. That's like Andy Dufresne approaching Shawshank and banging on the doors saying, "Let me in here!" Most of us were completely lost before we woke up. Now that we can see, still, most of us have not been able to make it off-grid, digging our own well and outhouses. The artificial administrative nuisance and endless tasks that need to be done in this place surrounds us. All these things that keep us busy all day long can't be ignored, lest we will be soon kicked to the curb if we don't do these tasks. Miss a local property tax payment and see if you really own your own house. However, the intentional complexity of this reality system must be put into the right perspective. Perspective is a theme, a major theme going forward of doing the work. The daily madness of living our lives and a million things popping up in our face, trying to stress us out, trying to get up in our business, it's all part of this earthly experience. It's one reason you actually came here, in my opinion. Don't cry, "Woe is me." See it as whack-a-mole. If you can put all of it in the proper perspective, why get stressed, upset, or angry at all? Of course, no matter how much we improve in this area, from time to time, real people will fall back and show weakness. That's normal for those who live temporarily in a body. We're far from perfect in this form. The standard of Buddha is impossible. At times, we will still be afraid. We will still become angry. As I go to the road to get a mailbox full of junk mail flyers, I still would very much like to turn around as that car goes by and yell, "Fuck you!" I'd love to do that at the little guy with his little tricked-out Honda Accord and shake my fist at his ass as he drives by with his Harley-Davidson muffler, waking everybody up that's taking a nap. I must not take the bait. I must do the work. That asshole that just drove by me is part of this experience, just like the rooster is, just like Hillary Clinton's Anthony Weiner is. Oh, don't forget the best news of all time. You will decide if you win or lose here. What does that mean? You will decide if you win and lose here in life. It's all up to you. If you want 95% of your life's worry, fear, stress, anger to go away, you have total control over it. Simply snap your fingers or click your Walmart ruby slippers together and it's all gone. The late water bill doesn't create stress. You create the stress. You don't have to behave like the not milk wants you to behave. Every energy-producing emotion is a choice. Your minute-to-minute state of mind is up to you. Never blame anything. To blame something is to admit that it has power and it is in control. That's why it is blamed. In a few cases a year, though, this is probably true. Maybe a hurricane did, in fact, take your house. That wasn't up to you. Okay, blame it if you want. But for almost everything else in life that affects your state of mind negatively, you have the first and last word over it. This is why political news is such an endless mess of scandal and corruption. The not milk loves its minions to be blamed by the people. That, by definition, gives it power. Also, when real people blame politicians or government, it hides the highest truth from them. The not milk loves answers like the one my uncle gave me about 10 years ago. He said, "Matt, if you want the world to change, we just need to win more Republican elections." He actually said that. Matt, hang in there. It'll change. We just need to win more Republican elections. Oh my God. I'm not joking. That was actually told to me. The not milk then makes sure the perfect political situation is never achieved by either side. So the false panacea of winning can continue to be strived for indefinitely. When Obama has both the House and the Senate and the Democrats control everything, then it's positioned that the Republicans still have the power to somehow block their actions and causes. When Trump has the House and the Senate, then the same script is run. The Democrats somehow are blocking. The people like my uncle are denied the political panacea that will bring perfection to this country. I'm detecting your sarcasm. Good, because I'm piling it on pretty hard. There's a big reason why people love to have someone or something to blame. Having nothing to blame means you're in control. People don't want that. The Not Milk provides an endless police lineup of things to blame, especially to our truth community. How many times have we been through the police lineup with all the bad guys there to point at? With this artificial Not Milk rogues gallery, it's never people's own fault. Matt, stay the course. Someday Q will leak enough information to put them all in jail. Then we can all walk out into the streets and hug. Today, the few truthers without their head up their asses can see that the bad guy here wants to be seen as the bad guy, at least to us. Their role is to be noticed, and they want to be blamed. This can hide an entire research community from the ultimate truth, and that's all they care about hiding. I started talking about it 7 or 8 years ago. It's the concept of mistakes on purpose. I'm not sure a big part of the truth community even understands this even today. They say, look, Matt, we caught him. Oh, we got him. Oh, look, we caught this footage. There's a guy on a wire flying by the guy with the gorilla suit up in the ISS. Oh, we caught him. Uh-oh, they're really in trouble now. No, it was intentional. It's for you to notice. I'm not making these examples up. There are hundreds of these that the truth community latched onto that they thought they got a big win. There was something where it was George H.W. Bush. Was he in a wheelchair? They're pushing him through some sort of walkthrough at JPL or NASA. And like, look, Matt, there's a green screen. They got a green screen set up. Oh, we got him this time. We caught him. That's exactly what they wanted you to see. Back in a certain event in Florida, it was a certain nightclub for a certain lifestyle choice. I'll just say, pulse. And then, this guy got winged 4 times. And then he says in the hospital bed, I got it 3 times. And then ABC News says he was banged event twice. And they don't know how many. These catastrophe thespians are so bad, they don't even know how many times. Nope, mistakes on purpose. That's the bait they wanted us to take. Let me go back to what I was reading. Their role, the minions of the Not Milk, their role is to be noticed, and they want to be blamed. This can hide an entire community from the ultimate truth, and that's all they care about hiding. Everything else can be given away and revealed in hopes that we will be fixated on the bone that we were just handed. All of the endless bullshit it feeds truthers needs to be left behind for good. Worry about yourself simply means making small personal improvements daily, not waiting for the big win to change all of society. That never comes, obviously. I don't know how many truthers are still waiting for that. Probably most. This, though, overall is the delusion of Q. Oh, one more release and we're good to go. It's the blind insanity of following Trump. In terms of exiting the bog, simply start small with the obvious and work up from there. Of course, step 1 of the most obvious is never spending a minute on politics for the rest of your life. We'll talk more about the work going forward. 2 steps forward and then 1 step back is an apt descriptor of what personal progress looks like in this limited form while in this body. Matt, is that what Paula Abdul was truth-dropping? No, it wasn't. She said opposites attract, which is probably a creepy duality message in the 2-into-1 religion. Oh, sorry, let's continue. Don't beat yourself up if you come up short from time to time. Looking to the Buddha as the standard is ridiculous. Looking to Jesus as that doesn't mean they shouldn't be emulated. Thinking the standard can be reached is ridiculous. That's not what this experience is for. It's to a degree, as we'll talk about in the next few minutes, to embrace the low and to strive for something, but understand it cannot be achieved. It's not meant to be achieved. And you know what? That's just fine. One of their main tactics is to get us to believe that we've fallen short, that we haven't done enough by setting potentially impossible standards. They want us to use the spellcraft of English to condemn ourselves by saying things like, I am only human. And to a degree, there's a lot of truth in that. It's all about, do we fall for the trick or the spellcraft of English, or see through it and overcome it ourselves with affirmations or whatever. Of course, it's a condemning statement. Wants people to believe this is all you are. This is all you will ever be. You came from Big Bang, monkey man. I'm only human. I'm only human. What did Billy Joel say? We're born to make mistakes. Yeah, shut up, Billy Joel. Christy Brinkley should have left you on the first day. So it's a statement of condemnation. You can say it as long as you put the right tail end on it. I'm only human while I'm temporarily here in this body, and its limitations are meant to be embraced and in a way enjoyed. And then I know I'm much more than this. You've just taken the power away from that Billy Joel condemnation statement. We are very limited in this body. That's okay. The standard of Buddha. You've got to be kidding me. This body is hard to control. It produces tidal waves of feelings and emotions that are triggered to pull us back toward the animal from time to time and seemingly to rip our souls apart. The concept of Horcrux in the Harry Potter series needed the act of murder as the final act to fragment the soul and bind it to things of this material plane. Have the emotions of the body ever gotten anybody in trouble? Yeah, like 40 billion times. This is one of the main things about doing the work. I'm out of the mailbox right now. Junk mail, more junk mail. Is there anything in here worthwhile? Here comes that asshole down. Here he comes. You asshole! I want to scream at him. I hope your car flips. No, it's part of the reality, Matt. Don't get so upset at him. Have him pull over. Welcome him. Give him a lemonade. See if you can improve yourself, Matt. That's part of the work. It's okay to embrace the low form that we are here as long as we haven't committed heinous acts, and we work slowly to make progress, getting the three main parts of us to work together. Mind, body, spirit, mind, body, soul, like the Trinity. All parts have to work together. This tug of war, a battle amongst the parts has to end. Our bodies remind us every single day how low we are here. How about the few times you and I have had to squeeze our cheeks together in a crowded elevator as not to gas out the little room, have the people... Is that the behavior of a being that Nietzsche says is striving to become the Superman and replace God? Trust me, God didn't make no elevator gassers in his image. Don't ever judge yourself by the perfect standards while you're in this earthly place, while you're in this body. How are you doing in general now versus last month is all that's important. We'll talk about what I consider to be the spiritual work later. It's simple stuff. It's not bullshit you hear on the internet like chanting over a fire in a trance and shadow work. It's not that sort of bullshit, in my opinion. If it's made to be complex, then the real answer is simple. A+ grades and perfect scores from God or higher self or whoever for you are not obtainable while you're here. That's okay. It's not what this place is for. The workings of our body are pretty amazing. In many ways, the body can be beautiful, but it will quickly remind you of your low status here. After just a few hours, it adopts a horrible BO under the armpits. The breath will stink from one single meal of garlic. It has been trained to be emotionally traumatized from birth. Nietzsche can take his concept of the Superman and shove it up his Kal-El. By the way, how many Superman fans that read the comics realize Kal-El, K-A-L-L, meaning God? And of course, that's why they have it in there, whatever. But none of these dumbass comic book fans would ever understand that. Sorry. The first thing the minions do here is smack you on the ass to make you cry and traumatize you. At least they used to. And they also used to imprint your soul footprint, or S-O-L-E or S-O-U-L. I don't know if they still do that. If that's on your birth certificate, though, simply rescind it. You have the power to do that with an affirmation. Oh, they put my soul print on that? I rescind that. They don't got my soul, bastard sons of bitches. We are here on Earth for a short period of time inside an avatar of limitations, pitiful senses, and vices. It's okay to be low here. Your body will always want to please itself by shoving a jelly donut into its mouth, and then it will want to rub one out with a bottle of lube. Come on, how many men out there saw the movie American Pie, the original American Pie? How many men saw it the first time? And just for a second, considered the pie act may actually feel pretty good. It's okay if you consider that for just a moment. It's another thing if you drove 20 miles out of your way after the movie to buy a cherry pie, and then you actually did it a few times before your wife came home, continually baking it and reheating it. We are fiddlin' Bens low here. What? Fiddlin'? Did you call me a chiseler? Fiddlin' Bens. The person will steal anything. We're maybe not as low as depicted in Gangs of New York, but we're low here. That's what it was intended for this experience. The animal in us will never be fully controlled. Simply get better each month. Get better each year. Have the three parts work together. This human form can be beautiful in many ways, but for the most parts, it's fiddlin' Bens low. Don't believe me? Standing up from the pot, picking a winner, and sometimes liking the smell of one's own fart reminds us of how low we can be. Seeing and accepting this is liberating. However, part of the work here is overcoming the ego and controlling the animal. Quote, unquote, man made in God's image from Genesis is absurd to me. It's actually in other parts of the Bible as well. Man made in God's image. What? If you believe that, make sure you look in the mirror, say, ah, and then look down in the bowl before you ever say that again. You think that's God looking back at you in the mirror? Trust me, your fat gut hanging over your belt is not God. Like I said a minute ago, as you do truth research, you stumble upon a lot of strange stuff like man striving to become God, or maybe even the creep class, to replace God or become gods themselves. Nietzsche writes about it, as do many other intellectuals, whatever they are. If anyone in the creep class thinks they can do that sort of thing, that's retarded. Hey man, if we become gods, man, that would be out of sight. No, it wouldn't. It's not what this place is for. Whoever is trying to become gods in this place as men are delusional. Some say their 2-into-1 religion is in some way related to this concept. Look around you, man. This is no more of a place to become a god than the bottom of a pool is to light a cigarette. Once again, the truth is the opposite of what society presents. I'm here to embrace the low and to learn from this very unique experience. I need to accept it and, in a way, overcome many of its limitations as part of the growing experience. I will not try to seek A+ grades, but I'll try to get good grades. I need to do certain work here that I can only do in a body, and I'm limited because the body constantly wants to whack itself off. Also, and possibly related to their strange 2-into-1 presentations, the notion of overcoming duality that pops up from time to time is also absurd to me. So the point is to be intent on overcoming what this entire reality is based on? To overcome what the entire reality is built upon? If the duality of this earthly place doesn't exist in the dimension, say, where we came from, or where I was before my birth, then the experience here should be the opposite of overcoming it. I'm here to embrace the duality and learn as much as I can from it while I'm here. The dual nature of opposites and yin and yang, it seems very normal to us here, of course. Nothing can exist without its opposite. Boring. Yeah, I know, Matt. Good and evil, light and dark, hard and flaccid. I know. Yeah, okay, it's basic shit, right? But it may be this concept may be very foreign to you or to I before where we came from before our birth. Even the sun and the moon, during the eclipse, they show you they're related as part of the same thing. The impossible coincidence of the eclipse as explained by scientists and Mitch Pikachu about size and distance. And Matt, don't you know? That creates perspective. That's ridiculous, dude. I don't much believe in 1 in a trillion coincidences anymore. Therefore, the eclipse as it's presented, it was meant to behave that way. Per this reality construct, it was meant to do that. So find fascination with this duality. Don't try to beat it. The way Happy Gilmore grew frustrated trying to beat the clown. Come here, clown! We don't have to understand what their creepy 2-into-1 presentation is all about. If they need to do that, well, that's on them. I don't need it. They can have fun with that horse shit. The graduate level truther no longer needs to understand their strange behaviors. All that matters is showing slow improvement over a lifetime. The term enlightenment seems to imply that greatness will come in a single moment. That's ridiculous. Like one day you'll rise up in the air, enlightened, rise up like Neo in the Matrix, and be able to fly. It doesn't work that way here. This life is a snail's pace of progress, and it never ends. There's no finish line. We won't step out of bed one morning and say to ourselves, hey, I think I'm enlightened. I have a morning heart on, but nevertheless, I'm enlightened as all hell. That moment will not wash over us. The main point is to keep crawling forward and never stop crawling. You and I will never be enlightened. You will never achieve the impossible standard of Buddha. That's its false promise. That's part of the trick. That's not what this low place is for. The goal is not to regret not achieving such a level, but to accept that it cannot be achieved in this place, and to see that the amount of work that was done toward it in that direction was enough work. Let me repeat this. Basically, all of life boils down to this on one's deathbed, in my opinion. The goal is not to regret not achieving it, but to accept it can't be achieved and to see that the amount of work that was done toward it was enough. Going into the moment of death saying, I am completely convinced I have done all that I can, I have learned all that I can, and I have done enough with no regrets. I think all the religious stories going all the way back to the Egyptian weighing the heart against the feather, all the way back through time immemorial, is all another deception of this place. So Matt, you think the rule of opposites applies again? The rule of inversions and refractions? Yep, but I think it applies again. It implies an exterior judge. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there is a third party, Judge Judy. I think we judge ourselves, or from a higher self perspective, one aspect against the other. Why is that so hard to imagine? We do this all the time here, daily, even with the seemingly trivial. Oh, I was so proud of myself. The work party had an open bar, and I just had my one beer, and I got the hell out of there before they served the pigs and the blankets. I would have been drunk, and I would have gained 5 pounds. I'm so proud of myself. We judge ourselves all the time. And back to the Egyptian weighing the heart against the feather, most people don't know this. Guess one of the gods that was at that ceremony for the defunct and dead Egyptians? Maat. What? Yeah, but M-A-A-T. It was a goddess. Also, there was Amut. I guess Anubis was there. I think Osiris came and went. He can't just sit there and watch the dead all day long. He got other things to attend to. Won't it be interesting when those in our community, studying to be like sovereign citizens, I don't really know the terminology, but the people in our community that are removing themselves from the straw man legally. They're going through the paperwork with the government to reclassify their birth certificates. I don't understand it. It's not for me. I appreciate what they're doing. But the point is, won't it be interesting when they pass away? And if they choose the Egyptian portal, they're going in front of Amut and Maat and Osiris and Anubis. And won't it be interesting when those sovereign citizens get there? It's like, what you trying to do to me here? We're going to weigh your heart against a feather to see who said prove you have ownership over me. You're weighing my straw man against the weight of the feather, not me. You have it wrong, sir. You're not dealing with who you legally think you're dealing with. They're going to give these Egyptian gods a real hard time. What authority do you think you have here, Egyptian gods? I didn't ask to be here. We didn't ask to be here. And he's going to turn around and rile the whole crowd up, thousands of people behind. We didn't ask to be here. Revolt, brothers and sisters. Who do you think you are, Egyptian gods? You're not the boss of me. Prove you have legal standing over me. And look at these scales here. Look who's the judge of the scales. Anubis, he's got a dog face, for crying out loud, a dog face. And I'm supposed to trust these scales? Show me the last certificate of weights and measures where these scales were proved to be just and not rigged. This reminds me of that Bernie Mac game in an Oceans movie. Now get me the hell out of here. Returning to the concept behind our main theme, remember the person squeezing their cheeks together, trying not to gas out the crowded elevator? See, that type of being cannot be enlightened, ever, in this place. Embrace the low, but work to control the animal. Don't be like my old friends at Penn State. Speaking of low, the following are true stories. I'm in no way exaggerating. I knew a guy who prided himself on being able to recite over 100 different terms for whacking off, for masturbating. He'd go on and on after a few beers. Matt, are you going upstairs to wax your porpoise? I remember some of them. Matt, where were you? You were in the bathroom, weren't you, punching the dummy? Matt was whacking the mole again, whack-a-mole. I'm not joking in any way. He took pride in how many ways he could express the concept. I had another friend at Penn State who was writing a book. He was writing a book about all the possible male masturbation techniques that can possibly exist in the world. And he created many on his own. I'm not joking. The one I remember the most, and I'm sorry, but it cannot ever be forgotten. If you hear this, you may want to skip ahead 30 seconds. How many of you are skipping ahead? As he described it, the goal of this technique was to make your right hand, if that's your chosen hand, make it go numb with some sort of tourniquet. So then your brain is fooled into thinking it's someone else's hand, if you see what I mean. Think about it. If only the Not Milk would allow that sort of ingenuity to be channeled into solving the ills of the world. It's okay if that sounds a little bit like your own childhood. We who temporarily reside in this body can only express so much purity in this place. However, we can improve. We can overcome the animal and allow all aspects of us to work together instead of constantly fighting against each other. We can become a person that your 25-year-old self would not recognize. If people are low creatures for a few decades, that's part of the intended experience for you and for your higher self. There has to be a low baseline to improve from that and to overcome. There needs to be a low baseline as a method of comparison. Here's one more story that expresses this concept. In 1994, a bunch of my high school friends and I rented a house in Long Beach Island, New Jersey for the summer. It's one of those places where you put in double the amount of guys that are like technically on their lease. You pack it in like Animal House. Well, there was a unit of young guys above us in the unit above us. We were on the ground floor under their unit. Now, we knew that the Goombas above us were from Brooklyn or they're from Queens or the Bronx. I mean, to somebody from Pennsylvania, there's no difference between these boroughs. Somebody shouts out a whatever. It's all the same thing to us. We can't tell the difference. But we could hear their thick accents and see their cigarette smoke pouring out of the screens in the windows up there. Early on Saturday evening, their music would start, and the music played up there was something strange that we just could tell. They're playing that techno bullshit again. See, we preferred grunge rock. It was the time of Pearl Jam's 10 album and Nirvana's Nevermind and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Soundgarden and things like that. Only the New Order album Substance seemed to be a missing link between us and the Goombas that lived above us. New York City is like an alien planet if you don't live there, folks. After the third week of the summer, none of us had met any of these Don Corleone wannabes, so I decided to go upstairs to be a nice neighbor. After opening a creaky door, there were 3 Goombas getting ready to go out and hunt for women in Beach Haven, New Jersey, at the far south end of Long Beach Island. On the TV played Saturday Night Fever from a VHS tape recording that somebody had no doubtedly bootlegged. Living underneath them, they knew who I was. So when I walked in, the guy that was closest to me didn't much more than grunt as I entered the place. After I introduced myself, I spoke to the guy that was closest to me. He was sitting on the couch watching the movie, Saturday Night Fever. You see, the other 2 Goombas were combing their thick black hair in the bathroom mirror because they're getting ready to go out, as I said, and hunt for women. So I said to the guy there, I said, "You guys watching Saturday Night Fever?" Said in the same kind of way that Flounder in the movie Animal House said, "You guys playing cards?" The guy on the couch closest to me who was watching the movie turned coldly, and he said in his thick New York accent, he said, I'm not even going to be able to do it right. "We always watch this movie before going out." I was confused by this. They always watch this movie before going out? So I said back to him, "I guess you mean that you guys watch it a lot of Saturdays, right?" The guy seemed really irritated and replied back to me in his New York accent. He said, "No, I said always." I'm not doing the accent. I can't do it right now. He said, "We watch it every single night before we go out, no matter what day it is." I didn't ask why they watch it that much. If you've seen Saturday Night Fever and you saw these guys, you would understand. I quietly left and shut the door. We never spoke again. Philly doesn't mix well with New York. You see, the point is, we don't have to be perfect and abstain from every vice here and live like a monk. Those young Goombas from New York may have been as real as you and I are, if you can believe that. There's hope in the end for all real people, even possibly for them. If real, they may one day do the work and overcome their Saturday Night Fever fantasies. There's plenty of time for all of us to grow up over the decades. As Ed Kowalczyk said, in the band Live. Live lightning crashes. Ed Kowalczyk said in the album Secret Samadhi, in one of the songs, "We came to this earth to graze." Well, maybe he was talking about the creep class, but in a way, it also applies to us. Life is meant to be fully experienced up to a certain point. You don't want to do Horcrux, all right? You don't want to go too far, but it's meant to be experienced. We came to the earth to graze, not just for the creep class. Maybe my higher self is almost yelling at me daily. Matt, I didn't put you into that earth system to study reality all day long. You little belligerent. Tyrone, you fat bastard. Matt, you're actually finding out things that you're not supposed to find out. This wasn't supposed to what it's supposed to be. Your incarnation was slated to be another Matrix child for us. A bus driver. See, this is possible from your higher self's perspective. I've pondered this many times. Am I doing what my higher self, or the aspect of me, doesn't even want me doing? I think about this all the time. We in this community are so convinced we are the most righteous and just, and we're doing exactly what would most please our higher self or most please our God with this sort of reality exploration. But it's possible we malcontents are not doing what was intended for us. So what? At this point, I say, I've gone too far. I've come too far. At this point, I still want to break the game, whatever that means. Too far. We're too late in the ninth inning. I ain't going back to batting practice. All right, but many of us in this community have a different feeling about all this. If you believe in the concept of higher self, many of us say, like, I must have been some sort of masochist to put myself in here on earth. What was I thinking if I chose to come here? I'm going to have a long talk with my higher self. I'm pissed. This is the attitude of many of us, and to me, it is the wrong attitude. One of the main goals for that last page of the book, one of the main goals in this entire existence is to be able to find the heaven amongst the ever-growing hell. Okay, this is absolutely, if there were three keys to the whole thing, this world piles on the hell. It can never completely snuff out the heaven. Our goal is to continuously work. This is maybe the biggest part of the work, to find the heaven amongst an ever-growing hell. If you choose to focus on the hell, that's your decision. Returning to the basics for both you and the aspect of you that's not here or higher self, this life is meant to be experienced. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. However, as time goes by and as we grow up, the animal in control now in most people must be reined in with a spiritual ring bit and the ego demoted to be a team player. Materialism and sex acts are the most obvious representations of the animal in this lifetime. I have no desire to gather a rosebud by putting on tight pants and frequenting certain bars in the Castro. In 2002, true story, I drove by a bar named Moby's Dick. I'm not joking. It was, what's that called? And my cousin Mike said, that's the bar Moby's Dick. A 60-year-old man with a bottle of lube looking to buy his third vacation home is simply the beast in control. It's the 666 ruling everything. It's how most people are, unfortunately. We're still trying to break free. Most people will always put the animalistic materialism before the spiritual side. Most people don't even know that the spiritual side of the Vitruvian man exists. The key here is for all parts to work together, to give all aspects of you, including the spiritual side, what it needs from this earth experience, which cannot be done if the Not-Nilk's trick is believed. The trick is simply the inversion of Robert Frost's poem. It's the road most traveled. The Not-Nilk is masterful at getting one side of the tug of war to pull over the other side, and that other side has been put to sleep. Good news, as usual, it can't do anything directly. People screw themselves here. You know by now the other way I like to put this. The Vitruvian man has gnawed off his own spiritual arm. And how does he do that? Simple. By falling for the Not-Nilk's trick, which is following the road most traveled. It is 1 or 2 sentences every single time. On YouTube, in the comments section, I've handed out the Righteous Truther Award many times. These are the holier-than-thou granola crunchers who are so proud of themselves about certain things that they have to tell the world about how great they are. Some haven't watched TV since 1978, and they want the world to know about their righteous achievements. In a video a few months ago, I was saying something like this. I was watching the Daytona 500, and then I told a story that was related to NASCAR racing in some way. There was a comment under the video that said, "You lost me at you were watching the Daytona 500. See, this is a comment of a righteous truther. This person received the Righteous Truther Award. In his own mind, he is perfect. He never goes to a movie, he doesn't watch TV, and certainly not sports. He's either a vegan or at least won't eat pork. When I told the YouTube channel a few months back that I had created something called Pork on Pork for dinner, he was probably disgusted by that. See, I wrapped bacon around pork chops, and the pork chops were really overcooked, but the undercooked bacon didn't help because the pork chops were so damn dry and hard and it didn't do anything. I bet that person who left this comment isn't as perfect as he thinks he is. I bet if we followed him around with a secret camera, we would find him doing some weird shit. A righteous truther who proclaims their achievements to the world isn't legitimate. Do what you need to do for yourself, your way about yourself journey, not for acknowledgement or points you would get from others who may notice. There's no scorecard here that puts a happy face on your report card when you throw out your TV or become a vegan. If these are the things they truly want to do, then I applaud them for the actions, of course. However, many are righteous truthers, and they need to always inform us in the comments about their perfect ways. If they need to tell us, that means there are other motivations for what they're doing. If I helped a little old lady to change a tire, and then I felt an overwhelming need to tell the world about it, then I've not acted with the correct motivations. The Vitruvian man here has two arms. There's two sides. We simply must strive to improve and listen to what our spiritual side wants from us in this life. Both sides, the animal and the spiritual, have demands on their respective sides. At times, the demands of both sides must be met. In most people, only the materialistic or beast side is pulling and being fulfilled in the tug of war. The spiritual side is tied to a chair with a sock stuffed in its etheric mouth. Take those Goombas upstairs, for example. What side of the tug of war were they serving? Of course, in the unit below, I wasn't doing much better at 24 years old, trust me. Maybe a little better than those guys, but not much. However, with us, there's a risk of going too far the other way and attempting to overserve the spiritual. The higher self may be screaming down at us in the path we're taking now. Hey, I sent you sons of bitches to the world to graze, not to break down this reality system. Balance. Don't go too far, you conspiracy sons of bitches. I'm not saying that. Maybe that's what higher self is saying to us. Back to the original point introduced in this chapter. Once you see the whole picture, always realize how absurd it is to take all of life's little hassles so seriously. After your death, you may hold this little earth snow globe in your hand, and you'll kick yourself thinking about how you let all the little stuff down here bother you. You'll say things like, "What a fool I was, taking my life in that weird Maya so seriously. Look at what I was getting angry about throughout my lifetime. I can't believe the shit I was whining about. Look at this, look at that. I didn't speak to my brother for 4 years because he voted for Trump. How lame is that? Why did I care about the trivial? Why did I even care about how he voted? The election was rigged anyway." The outer ring of reality, the screen, the not milk, has grown in power. At this point in 2023, this is an entire world of bullshit and deception. And like a living entity that needs sustenance, it needs your attention and energy to survive, literally to survive. It works nonstop 24 hours a day to be believed in by real people, for it has nothing without that cornerstone. The moment you see through it, it becomes as non-threatening as Al Gore in a pool with little floaties on his arms. The reality laid down over the natural world was designed to distract you, so you never find the highest spiritual truths while you're alive. If the game was easy, it wouldn't be worth playing. The natural world is the game board here. It's a bear, a river, forest, clouds, a bee. It can be ruthless and beautiful at the same time. The convergence of heaven and hell happens on this part of the game board. I think whatever heaven that needs to be found will always or can always be found here, but in other places, but especially here. For example, both a sunset and the 8:30 p.m. display of fireflies. I call both the greatest show on earth, and I believe that. One of the Not Nilk's tricks is to get us to take for granted or become jaded with or kind of bored with all the incredible, wondrous things in the natural world around us. So only Super Bowl tickets is what's really cool. Oh, that's so much fun. Or you got tickets to Hamilton, or all the stuff that the Not Nilk can provide. When if you can see it clearly, it's actually the natural world is far superior to any sort of bullshit that could serve up at any price. The general terms of society and culture has become an egregore of sorts, like a living thing. In terms of what it's out to do to real people, it's the Terminator. It will never rest in distracting you from your spiritual goals. The dark part of reality will gladly reveal all sort of truth to people in order to hide the only truth that matters. It tempts you to wade into its never-ending bog of conspiracy that has been artificially created over centuries. The list of topics to waste time on now in 2023 is endless. How did the creeps get away with the 7-Eleven job application submitted in 2001? How did they get so many countries to go to war in World War I over absolutely nothing? Do banks really create money for loans out of thin air? Did a tinfoil Tonka toy really land on the surface of the moon? What do U.S. presidents actually know about what is really going on? Did Barack Obama really slip several times and say Michael by mistake? Does Joe Biden really sell Deliverance-style banjos? The questions associated with the bog is thousands of pages long at this point. It tempts you to try to answer each question through research. What a waste of time. Do your own research. What a joke. Now we know why people like Glenn Beck spouted that off for year after year. Don't trust me as I eat ice cream on TV. Do your own research. Well, if you go out and do your own research, where are you going to go to do that research? The Not Nilk reading room? The Library of Congress? It's the Not Nilk. The main sources are Not Nilk sources. So what's doing your own? You're going to go find, Mick West at Metabunk? Oh, that's really great. I mean, where are you going to go? I mean, it's hard at this point. If we were starting today versus when many of us started 10, 15, or 20 years ago, it's far more difficult. Not Nilk has done an incredible job with most people believing that there are thousands of different news outlets and sources when there are very few, and those few get their stories from the exact same place. In the past, we considered this endless list of topics important to research. We now see them as aspects of one overriding master trick. Once the trick is understood at the highest level, getting the answers to millions of smaller questions and collecting the details becomes unnecessary. Yes, at this point, if we do more research, then we're falling back into the bog. You may have an assessment about something that, say, comes on the news. Maybe you only hear a minute of the story, not much. And just from that 1 minute, whatever it's presenting on your local news, you may say to yourself something like, this recent mall event, or this recent school event, or it looks a little funny to me. Maybe it's a setup, or it's staged. Or it's fine to form an opinion based on your inner knowing, based on all the work that we've put in. But never go to the web to research its breadcrumbs, for they've been marinated in yellow for days. Never again waste a minute on it. Even the larger topics should no longer get our attention. Remember, these creeps are not the same sort of entity, spiritual entity that you are, in my opinion. For some reason, they may need to use their gematria. They may need to keep presenting their number 33 or keep pairing the 9 with the other number. They seem to have to do this, constantly presenting the one eye, all this creepy shit that we don't understand. Let them do it. We don't need to do it. They do. We don't need to understand it. Do I need to understand how the Baphomet's androgyny relates potentially into their 2-into-1 presentations? No, I don't care anymore. Do I need to understand their take on the planets Jupiter and Saturn and the astrology associated between them going back and forth and how they use Sirius? No, who cares? Let them have their eyes wide shut parties talking about that sort of horse shit. They're going to use that shit to get ahead. We don't need it. Worry about yourself. Our type of entity doesn't need that shit. We don't need to understand their gematria and symbolism to win spiritually here. As usual, I'll do the opposite of what they want me to do. The first grade truther says, "Oh, Matt, Nettie, well, Mr. President," he says, we're making strides. Oh, we're investigating things they don't want us to know about. Oh, boy, they're trying to hide it over here, and we're breaking through. They must be shaking in their boots." No, they planted all this, and they want our constant attention on it. Mistakes on purpose. Just inner knowing. Do they want me spending a year making 45 presentations about the Baphomet and my interpretation of it, and then going off and into foreign lands to investigate the root of Baphomet and why Levi painted it and all that? They want me trying to figure that out. They don't care about being exposed. It's nothing more than a yellow breadcrumb. The last thing they want is worry about yourself. Speaking to someone now that may be new to all this, I will admit that to a degree, living in the bog for a while is necessary. The fraud of this world must be seen, and the reason for it understood. The sheer magnitude of the trick's components is something that no real world could pull off. If in the bog, climb out of the bog as quickly as you can. Most of us, in truth, never make it out of that quicksand. The more research people start to do, the more they find that the topics get even stranger, and like magic, more bullshit breadcrumbs pop up daily that needs further investigation. Reality is an artificial conspiracy generation machine. No real world could pull all this shit off. In this way, the part of reality that wants to hide you from your true nature will generate what seems like real truth, in hopes of keeping the investigator distracted from the only truth that's important, which is the truth about themselves. It has done an expert job burying the instruction manual on how a person should use this life. The conspiracy generation machine aspect of this reality never turns off. For example, one day, this government may reveal who really killed JFK, and most people will believe this is some sort of major milestone in getting to the bottom of things. "Now we're getting somewhere, Matt," the fooled truther will say. The dummies will see this release of classified information as a big win. It will not be a big win. It will be shit. The announcement will generate endless news headlines about government beginning to be more transparent. Assholes who believe in the Freedom of Information Act will get excited. This is not truth. It's spoon-fed bullshit to falsely satisfy people who will be fooled into thinking that they're finally getting the truth. It's simply the act of throwing a fish to a population of seals. It will fool many people into thinking they're starting to win. Finding out after all this time who killed Kennedy in relation to your spiritual journey here on Earth is about as important as Jeff Bezos putting on a seatbelt before a Blue Origin green screen flight. They, governments, for example, have hundreds of, quote, truth breadcrumbs, all baked and ready to be served to the population when needed. They will try to remind citizen investigators that their research is important, and a lot of details are still hidden. The Freedom of Information Act bullshit tempts real people into thinking there are mountains more of important information to uncover out there. People think, quote, "If I was given a stack of approved FOIA requests, then I could really find out what I needed, and they'd have to comply." FOIA is a bunch of bullshit. Do you think they'll really hand over their dark secrets because some asshole filled out a form and sent in a $10 cashier's check? I'm sure right now they have an incredibly interesting final JFK story prepared. Right now, all ready to go, ready to be revealed to the public when they need to use it. When they need to throw a fish to the seals and motivate millions more to keep researching and using that wonderful Freedom of Information Act. Timing is the key. The AI now, I think, will tell them when they need to release any more classified chicken nuggets in order to pacify the public, whether it be JFK or in any area, UFOs, or 7-Eleven job application. Oh, they have it all ready to go. They're probably surprised they have a need to use any of it. I assure you the Colosseum in Rome never used up all their bread, just in case. Like I said, the creeps are likely pretty surprised that the public has bought the same old Kennedy bullshit for so long. They're sitting on piles of it. They're like, we haven't had to use any of this shit. Although it was under the Trump administration, there was something about a release of documents. What came out of it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. remember this story back in around 2010 or so, if I remember correctly? Many senators and U.S. congressmen were allowed to go into this locked room and read the secret 28 pages. You remember that? Was it 28? It had to do with the 7-Eleven job application, or the secret, we're going to let these senators in. They can't take their cell phones. They can't take any notes. And then they came out and said, you won't believe what I just read. What a bunch of bullshit. They couldn't take notes, couldn't talk about anything, couldn't give any interviews, but they were revealed. It was revealed to them. What a freaking joke. A gigantic stage show, worse than Moulin Rouge, was done to set the stage just in case they needed to release more bogus information about the big day in the future in order to pacify the public. Now, their Whopper computer was likely telling them all along that the people are too dumb to ever demand more details on the big day, and that the story about the 8-foot man in the cave was enough. But just in case, they created a contingency plan, secret pages. They said, we need to have a bone ready to throw the proletariat public in case we need to perfectly pacify these dumbasses. The secret pages, if any ever existed, probably, in my opinion, admitted, I have to be very careful in how I word this, probably, all bullshit, of course, but to continue to pacify, the further bone would be an admission of some sort that they intentionally did something to that building 7. Okay, let's just put it like that. Because, see, that's a government building with all this classified information. And we're just telling you folks now that some of these buildings are wired, and that one was wired. And see, we couldn't allow anybody to get in there and get all that classified information. We had to do that to that one ourselves, is what, to me, that's what, if they ever had to release these secret pages, that's what they had planned. If too many people were saying, well, this number 7 was really strange, but nobody cared. My cousin, your brother, your uncle, nobody cared. Nobody even knew about number. I mean, it's just, they don't ever need to use anything that they have prepared. Not that what they would ever leak out or use would be real. That would just be another part of the bogus story, but it would serve to pacify people. When they craft a major event, they don't have just one lie. They have a lie within a lie within a lie. And that's just the first layer of bread. Their analytics today, their AI will tell them what lies to use and when, and what part of the bogus story to hold back for the future bogus story. They can gauge the attitude of the public today in real time using their chat GPT, analyzing every tweet, millions of emails a day, tweets, thumbs up, thumbs down. The AI Whopper knows the sentiment of the populace in real time today. Scary, the resources they have access to compared to, say, 1960 or 1970. I think the few in government, or those who understand that the outer ring of reality exists, or what we call the screen, or understand the basic notion of not milk, those that don't appear as Melvin P. does in front of the cameras, I think they're actually surprised how stupid people are today. But it might not be stupid anymore. There could be a technology of sorts or something else where it's not just about intelligence. If people are on a download of sorts, called the radio station, on the frequency, then it has nothing to do with stupidity anymore. You know, for example, we know the Ivy League professors, they're as lost as anybody on what's called Earth, yet they would all have superior IQs. And by the way, you know what the best IQ test of all time is? Just tap people on the shoulder, which I guess that would get people arrested. But just ask people as they go by on the promenade, what does IQ mean? And will they be able to say intelligence quotient? I don't think, you can't even say it, Matt, you dumbass. Intelligence quotient. Astanta. They won't even know. That's all you need to do for an IQ test, is just say, what does the IQ even mean? I'd say 80% will fail. Sorry. Of course, other than a tiny percentage of people like us, nobody asked for more information or demanded more information about the big day in 2001. So they never had to release any more of the fairy tale. They know that so much time has passed at this point, and cement has been hardened, that the overwhelming majority of the populace will always believe that a giant person in a cave around the world did it. That's not going to change at this point. The cement has hardened. So what parts of the story they're prepared to bring forth, if they need to, it's just meant to support the same old original bullshit. It's like putting an amendment on something where the original was fake to begin with, or it's an amendment on something that's invisible. That doesn't work either, but whatever. You know what I'm saying. It's similar in a way to my pork on pork, but they do fake on fake, if you see what I mean. Of course, the final release of information on what we were talking about, JFK, won't have any real truth in it, but it will pacify the zombies and motivate the first grade truthers to keep digging. So keep those Freedom of Information Act requests coming, you poor devils, because any group who lied about it initially would be compelled to tell the truth if a piece of paper was submitted with a $10 cashier's check. Thanks for listening.